Okay, ladies and gents, here we go again. Britain to suffer blackouts by December. This is not a joke. This is absolutely... how... This just keeps coming up over and over again. Well, let's go over everything today and these warnings then, because we've just had this new shock report that's come out today announcing that Britain only has 6 months of power left. And I know you probably think right away, oh, I know what this is caused by. It's actually a combination of inadequate decisions and just madness decisions that they've made. So they have said then the UK is going to have rolling blackouts this winter unless France agrees to provide extra power. But the problem is France is also struggling themselves. In fact, let me tell you the IMF report that's just come out on France. This is pretty shocking. Remember a few weeks ago I said France is running out of money? Well, the IMF report has just confirmed this now. They're one of the first major economies that they might have to go under restructuring and support from the IMF. France is just unbelievable. Okay, so this is you know what I thought was interesting though? I went on to the BBC website not long before starting this stream, just looking at the major stories today, and you would think it would be all the conflict, it would be the fact we've got no energy. No, the headline story just before I was about to stream was Starmer picking up Trump's papers. You can't make this stuff up. It was Keir Starmer bent over picking up President Trump's papers that he had dropped. This is the media we now live in. None of the important stuff, so that's what we cover here on the channel. Just make sure you are a subscriber here. None of the important stuff. It was this picking up papers. But anyway, so let's have a look at this then. Why is all of this going on? There's a few things that I think you will not be happy about first and foremost. Number one, were you aware of this? There is a windfall payment to gas plants. This is natural gas plants. So this winter, a number of gas-fired power stations are set to receive multi-million-pound bonus payments, as much as 17.8 million, just for running for a few hours during winter of 2025. These power plants mark up the energy by 100x. Yes, they mark it up by 100x on market rates as a sort of, they're saying it's a bonus payment. No, it's extortion, if you ask me. It's extortion because they know the government has no other option. You've also got the tightest supply ever recorded in the UK right now. So this is out of the NESO report, by the way. This is the National Electricity System Operator. They have projected 2025 winter margin of 6.6 gigawatts. This is, they just said there's not enough power, basically. The UK uses something like, have we got any expert engineers, power engineers online? I think it's something like 60 gigawatts per year. And we only produce a very, very small percentage of that. In fact, I know that the nuclear sites, remember we didn't just close the nuclear sites, we blew up some of these coal plants and everything else. They couldn't be, they call it decommissioning, but of course it's not decommissioning, it's blowing them up. These power plants, even the nuclear ones, the 5 that we've got, produces something like 5.9 gigawatts. That is nowhere near enough power if you need 60 gigawatts. You're doing basically 10% of what you need. And now they're talking finally about these miniature nuclear reactors. It's too little too late. We're so far away from what we actually need here. And there's so many of these reports that have come out. The next one is this growing reliance on imports and infrastructure risks. The UK will draw more power from France via these interconnectors. This dependency exposes the UK to external grid failures as well. There's also, they're relying on, if you look at these, can you throw up that image on screen of those energy lines? If you actually look at these energy lines that we're bringing in. Luckily, I've got a photographic memory here. You see where they're all coming in all throughout, all across the UK, right from France all the way north. You're getting some of the Scandinavian countries as well here. All these energy lines coming in. And you think what happened in France, you think Spain and Portugal, parts of Germany as well. That's good. That's good there. So you think what actually happened earlier this year with all of the energy and what happened, these grid failures, and we're supposed to be relying on a lot of these. I just wanted to mention as well, real quick. I keep seeing all these stories. These stories are constant of people that are either getting trapped in snowstorms, or it's something like 25,000 excess deaths, they're called, excess winter deaths in the UK last year. It's something like, they estimate between 5,000 and 25,000 per year, just in the UK, very small country, are from cold-related things. Now, I know we've talked about these before, and I know we've got some great testimonies of people who have been caught in blizzards and all sorts of things. These things cost almost nothing, and these will save your life. I've got 4 of them. And if I'm ever, these just pop in your car, by the way. You put them in your glove box, whatever. They're so cheap. I'm putting the link below because my friend owns this company. And he gives you something like 72% off if you buy 4 of these. But these are just, they're emergency sleeping bags. These will save your life in an emergency. And I've got one here, which I just decided to play around with one day and get in it just to do a dry run. This is what it is. It is absolutely brilliant. Definitely grab something like this for winter. If you live in a climate that gets freezing cold during winter, get these things. They're so important, and they don't cost a lot of money, so you should get them. And then we've got to come on to the water story as well. We've got to come on to that in a minute. This just takes us over the edge with what the UK has announced now. And again, they never tell you the truth on what's actually happening with the water supply, but we'll come on to that. That's why I've got some pond water here, and you probably know what I'm going to do with this pond water in a minute, so stay tuned. But where do we get to? Okay, here we go. So we've got then the Haze. Okay, do you remember the Haze substation fire that took out 1,300 flights? That was just one substation. You think about what they're talking about here. These winter extremes, these volatile renewables, cold snaps like what happened in January 2025. It caused a dip in wind output, and it forced the, do you call it NESO, N-E-S-O, that organisation anyway, to pay £21 million in a day just in bonuses to these gas plants. 21 million in one single day, which was passed on to customers. It was passed on to you, all because the government can't get their act together to actually get this stuff sorted, get the infrastructure sorted, get these power plants built. Why are they not doing it? It doesn't make any sense. It's because they're so focused on themselves. They're very selfish, trying to get themselves re-elected or elected. They're not even taking care of the important things. And then they finally do what the people want when there's a huge backlash, like what we're seeing with the latest investigation scandal. Right? This is what they tend to do. But all of this stuff, even though these emergency reports are coming out, you're not seeing any movement to take care of these problems. Shifting coal from gas, shifting coal to gas and renewables as well is another one that they're focusing on. They think that the solution is battery storage. Really? Battery storage for the whole country. Where are they going to get the materials for this and the minerals? I don't know. Why not just use the gas power stations, instead of doing this deal that's paying the gas power stations huge amounts of money when the power's not being used? They're trying to rely on this renewables when they've got the gas there, and they're paying them anyway these bonuses which they would have paid in the gas. Does that make any sense? But this is the big one. If you read all these reports, the blackout risk is real. We've had a number of near misses January 2011 and January 2025. And they call them near misses because they say that if these things actually triggered an outage, it would have been weeks or months before they could have actually got all of the power back online. So this is pretty serious stuff. So here we go. Britain is to rely on France to avoid blackouts this winter. This is what the government said. They've got this deal with France, even though France has got a lot of energy issues themselves. But apparently, no, they've got this deal because contracts are never broken, are they? They said they have got this agreement with France and some other European neighbours. They plan to use the interconnectors linking the UK with France, Holland, Belgium, Norway and Denmark to back up the UK's power because we just don't have enough power. Currently in operation, we've got a capacity of 9 gigawatts and they plan to double that with renewables by 2030. Despite the UK's reliance on electricity imports that have emerged, they're setting out to... in fact, they're not setting out to make any drastic changes. This is madness. However, they added, there may be some tight days and early indications suggest these are most likely to occur in early December or mid-January. So, ladies and gents, that's when you take your little trip away, go get you last-minute deal to the Canary Islands or Spain or Portugal, something like that. Avoid early December or mid-January, they say, this when you can have these blackouts. And it's just interesting to me, they're still pushing for all of this electrical-based heating and banning fossil fuel heating systems and all the other stuff in new builds and things like that. And yet the risk is not with gas, it's not with oil, it's with electricity. Baffling, absolutely baffling. So what have we got? A brush with disaster, says this report. The large margin comes after a near disaster on January 8th, when poor renewable power generation and soaring demand left grid operators scrambling to keep the lights on. The maximum demand the UK could face this coming winter is 60.5 gigawatts. It's equivalent to 20 nuclear power stations, and we've currently got 5. So that's Hartlepool, Heysham 1 and 2, Torness and Sizewell B. These are your 5. There's less than 6 gigawatts, so 10%. So we've got here 3.1 billion in 20. Okay, this is the other really important one. This is really the other one. The annual cost of power imports were in 2019 just £1 billion, which already, I shouldn't even say the word just because that's huge, £1 billion. Now, in 2024, it's 3.1 billion. Just a few years later, it's gone up. And they don't know why it's gone up so much. Well, I think we all know it's pretty obvious. And the risk is, these shortages and things, and also these power outages and these blackouts that we're seeing in other European countries. Well, what if they happen when we need power? Is it going to have a knock-on effect? I think probably. Now let's come on to the water, actually. We've still got more to talk about with this, but let me talk about this, and I don't want to keep you in suspense too long. Why have I got pond water on my desk? Well, because as people found out during the last blackout, and I warned people way in advance about this, and I said, just be aware, the water doesn't work. The taps, you turn on your taps and things, doesn't work in blackouts. And so many people said, that's not true. That's not true. The water system still works in blackouts. And then later on, people would say, you'd see all the comments and they, no, it doesn't. They need to be pumped. It needs electricity. That's why we used to fill our bathtubs, when we were kids, because if you have a blackout, you can't get water. This was another thing I talked about a while ago. I've always used these sort of straws anyway, especially when I was in the military, because you don't want to be carrying loads of water around with you if you're going on tabs or hikes and things like that. These things weigh nothing. And here we go. I'm just going to demo here. Here we go. You ready? Just to prove to you. That just tastes like normal water. It's absolutely fine. Seriously, I need a drink anyway. Keep my throat lubricated. That just tastes absolutely fine. I'm not sure why someone put the duckweed in the top there. I think we didn't need that extra touch. But you can get these again. They cost almost nothing. They're very, very low cost. These straws, they're just brilliant. They are a lifesaver when you can't get water, when you don't have access to water. I don't know why the government spends so much with all this sort of charitable work in other countries when they could send a load of these. They cost very little. Again, there's a discount link below. I think he's given me for you 63% if you get 63% off the price if you get a couple of these straws or a few of these straws. So check those out below as well. Let's talk about water. And also, just finally, if you haven't got the gold and silver program, you'll find the link below in the description. That is still on sale. We are releasing a couple more modules this weekend, and then I'm starting to film a lot of the interviews as well. We're filming 2 interviews tomorrow, so that'll be ready for around about the 4th of July. We'll start releasing the advanced course. So it's going to be absolutely mind-blowing. We've got people, the top experts in the world in different fields of gold exploration, pensions, 401ks, securing the money that you've worked your whole life for in your pension, your savings. We've got the top experts from around the world coming in, flying in, some of them are over Zoom as well, the interviews. It is going to be an amazing program. Check that out below. So let's look at what's just been announced then. This is a government press release. Okay, this is the government. It's not me, it's the government, UK Gov. England faces 5 billion litre public water shortage without urgent action. 5 billion litres and a further 1 billion litre a day deficit for the wider economy. They say we've just, and of course they've got to lead with this, we've just had the hottest, driest spring in over 100 years. Honestly, I can't verify this. It's very hard to verify if they're telling the truth about these things now. Because if you look at this data, they've changed so much of the data. Oh, it's a data upgrade, they call it. How do we know it's a data upgrade? How do we know they haven't started messing around with all the data? That's why I like the printed stuff, when you get those printed things, or the newspapers where you can go back and look at the weather report on a newspaper. You can actually see what the weather was and what the temperature was like back in the day. So they're saying this is the hottest, driest spring in over 100 years. How can it, can it be both? Maybe. What is the reason though? I love this. Are you ready for the reason? Climate change. That's the reason. A growing population, emerging technologies, and a need to protect the environment. No, it's not. Absolute nonsense. It is leaking pipes. They're not repairing the infrastructure. They're not repairing all the stuff. They're selling off the companies to foreign investors who only care about profit. They don't care about looking after the water supply, making sure the pipes and all the, all the other stuff is well maintained. And then wait till we get to the solutions, and you'll see this is all about money. What are the solutions that they are talking about? They are talking about desalinization plants. Really? Desalinate? Do you know how much these things cost? You don't need this. How about, and another report I saw this week just had me doing this as usual, and it was talking about why the flooding is so bad now. Oh, flooding is climate change. Oh, that's why everything's flooding. And then you walk down the street in almost any city or town and look at the drain. Look at these storm drains, if you know what a storm drain is. They're blocked. They're just blocked full of mud and everything else. And then they say, oh, that's the reason for the flooding. Look at all these streets. They're all flooding. No, look at the storm drains. They're not cleaning them out. So because they're not cleaning them out, all the streets are flooding. Obviously, I'm giving you a broad example there. Where you've got houses built on floodplains, it's just going to flood. There's not a lot you can do. You can do defences and try and lobby to have the water courses rerouted and stuff like that, but at the end of the day, if you're on a floodplain, good luck to you. But yeah, some of the stuff they talk about is absolute nonsense. They said, and the other thing they need to take into account is all these new data centers and power plants and all the other stuff. This uses a ton of water, huge amounts of water. They're going to need to build new reservoirs, water transfer schemes, and they need to do all this stuff, but instead they're not talking about that. They are talking about, let's get to it. It's basically your fault. Yes, it's your fault is what they are saying. What do they think the solution is? Smart meters. Just wait for the comments on this one. I'm going to read the comments. Smart meters. Water companies have committed to the vital rollout of 10 million more smart meters to help you to understand where you are wasting water in your home. Look, I'm pretty sure we can all figure out where we are wasting water if we are at all. Efficiency labeling. They want to label your dishwashers, toilets and showers with labels to help you to be more efficient. Infrastructure. They want to create these desalinization schemes, which, do you know how much they cost? An absolute fortune. This is what they're talking about. They're basically saying it's your fault. It's not their fault, which we know it is. A couple of comments then that have come out. This deficit threatens not only the water from your tap, but also economic growth and food production. That was from Alan Lovell. He's the chair of the Environment Agency. He also said we need to tackle these challenges head on and strengthen work on coordinated action to preserve this precious resource and our current way of life. That's what he had to say. But yeah, it's the data centers, I think, is what's going to be using up a lot more water very shortly. And they haven't got a solution for this, but they've got more solutions for you, though. Here we go. They say that, wait for this. And they say if you don't do these things, which I'll tell you in a second, you are going to result in low crop yields and higher food prices for yourself. They said the Environment Agency is helping farmers, but they can only do so much. It's up to you, the public. What do they say? Take very short showers, turn off your taps when brushing your teeth, use full loads for your washing machine and dishwasher. I mean, some of this is common sense anyway. Collect your rainwater, delete old emails to reduce pressure on data centers, and just don't use your technology as much. Just don't be on it as much. Read a book, go out for a walk, and you won't be using as much energy. But and I remember we talked about this, it's less than a few weeks ago, and this was a major report that came out, and it talked about how Britain could face months-long blackouts because of net zero. It was a huge report. The grid operators as well even got involved, which was very rare for them to get involved in this report. And they said that what is happening could cause a major collapse of the infrastructure. So this net zero push could leave Britain increasingly vulnerable to a Spanish-style blackout. This is what the report said. The grid operators raised concerns that the switch from dependable gas to intermittent wind and solar power would reduce network stability, and the cost to fund all of these measures was going to increase to £1 billion a year, which will have to be passed on to you through your energy bills. Meanwhile, the global energy watchdog has sounded the alarm over the premature retirement of the British power plants without adequate replacements. They want an investigation. Why were these plants all blown up? Why weren't they simply closed? That's what the government said they were going to do. They were going to close the plants. So now the energy watchdog, the global energy watchdog, wants to launch an investigation to find out why they blew them up. This is really serious. And I think the answer is because they did it deliberately as part of net zero, because if it's blown up, you can't reopen it. It's worrying. It's worrying the power some of the politicians have. They're supposed to be elected for the people, but now they are elected to rule the people, as it were. Now, UK is still 43% dependent on imports. 75% is still fossil fuel based, is the energy. Even though, so what you'll see from the government a lot of times, they'll say, oh, we only use 7% fossil fuels. Today's been a wonderful day. Listen to the keywords, today, this week. But if you look at it in general over the year, it's still 75%. So even though they do all this thing and tell you they're using all this stuff, that they're actually not. And just remember, don't ever forget what happened to Spain and Portugal and parts of Germany. And you remember the trains, and I talked about the trains, and everything just stopped working. No one could do anything at all. Let me just come on to that IMF report, by the way. So for the first time, the idea of France being placed under IMF guardianship is being talked about. This is long reserved for countries in crisis, usually developing nations, but due to abysmal debt, sharply rising interest charges and pressure from rating agencies, this has now formed this explosive cocktail, and French economic sovereignty is faltering. International institutions are now scrutinizing Paris with the same severity as struggling economies. The Minister of Economy mentions for the first time the risk of being placed under IMF guardianship because they just don't know how they're going to get out of this current cycle. France they've run out of money. They're having a lot of problems. And again, this just comes back to that forecast I made years ago, that what we're seeing is this self-implosion of Western nations. And I'm just going to take the US out of this category because I think some of the things that are going on at the moment have shifted them, especially with energy supply. But you look across Europe, you look at the UK, and you look at all these mad things that they've been just driving towards constantly. And it is worrying. I think it is that they've self-sabotaged everything, because remember what I always say, energy is your foundation. It's like building a house. You can't just build a house on the ground. You've got to have, well, you could use bedrock, of course, but you've got to have something stable. You've got to put down the concrete. You've got to really put a lot of footings down, and then you can build your house, right? You look at what they've done with the energy supply and just destroyed it across Europe, put all these renewables in, thinking they were going to be 100% renewable. Everyone with a brain knew that is not possible. It's physically impossible. You've got to have power idling in the background. And you know, these people who aren't being paid, you know, the energy experts who are unbiased, they've been saying this from the start. All the people, it's fascinating when you read the reports saying, oh yeah, 100% renewables, 100%. And you look, and then you start linking, have they been paid for that report? Usually yes. And again, don't take my word for that. Check it for yourself. They're getting paid for a lot of these reports to say this stuff. I don't know. I think it's a terrible thing. But anyway, you can look after yourself. Remember, emergency sleeping bag, stick them in your car. Get one of these water straws, or get a few of these water straws. So cheap. They're just amazing products. Gold and silver program as well. Get in on that to protect your finances and things like that. Other than that, thanks for being a subscriber here. Really appreciate you guys. I hope that was valuable today to catch up on what's actually going on with our energy supply. And other than that, I'll see you on the next one. Thanks a lot. Take care. God bless.